All right, everybody, welcome to NorCal Sports Network. And this is the same hat that Brock Purdy's dad wears. Chat loves it when Marty Lurie comes on.
Anytime you lose a game this time of year, when you can't go backwards, it's a problem.
All right, everybody, welcome on into NorCal Sports Network with some breaking news. Framber Valdez, who the San Francisco Giants were trying to get, is now a Detroit Tiger. And we're going to break it all down for you here, how this move helps Detroit, how it shows the Giants really dropped the ball, in my opinion. And I will let San Francisco have it. Out of nowhere, as Fernando Cabrera says, out of nowhere. Yep, the Tigers. I'm sporting the Tigers hat here. We got the whole hats, every Major League Ball club up on the wall behind us. So why not grab a Tigers hat? But first, let us thank our sponsor of this show. That would be Chapman Law Group. Chapman Law Group, located in Marin, licensed in all of California. Give them a call, 415-613-9483 for all your legal needs. And we also have a sponsor with PrizePicks. That's right, PrizePicks. You know PrizePicks. Let me tell you a little bit about PrizePicks and put that code right down there in that corner there. There you go. Right there. Right there. There we go. NCSN. So what is PrizePicks? PrizePicks is a daily fantasy app where you build lineups by choosing whether players will have more or less than a projected stat total. Right now, new users can get $50 in lineups when they play their first $5 lineup, win or lose. So you only got to play 5. They're giving you 50. You don't have to put in 50 to get a match of 50. None of those games. PrizePicks is giving you $50 basically, and you don't have to put up $5 of your own. So PrizePicks is available in 45 states, including California and Texas. Download the PrizePicks app today. Build your lineup and follow along while watching the games. Make sure you put in that code NCSN to get that $50. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, let me get the band off here. Guys, just breaking news, literally maybe 10, 15 minutes ago. Framber Valdez, let me pull up the report by Jeff Passan. And once again, NorCal Sports Network told you what the contract was going to be. I said 3 years, 105, maybe 110. It turned out to be 3 years, 115. And if the Giants passed on that, they are just as dumb as I think they can be sometimes. Okay, Framber Valdez, this is a huge move for Detroit with Tarik Skubal on board, and then his announcement coming out soon here with the $32 million or $19 million, the arbitration case. Star left-hander Framber Valdez and the Tigers are in agreement on a 3-year, $115 million contract. Valdez, 32, gets the highest AAV ever for a left-handed pitcher, as well as the highest for a Latin American pitcher. Huge move for Detroit. $38.3 million annual salary. There's an opt-out in the contract after the second season. Oh my goodness, did I predict this contract or what, everybody? I said the Giants are going to do this and they need to go, it might be as high as 110. All as the Giants needed to do is probably go up to 3 years and give them 120. Big deal. 3 years. Give them an opt-out after the second year. That's exactly what I predicted. I was $5 million off. And this is, I said it's going to be a 3-year deal and it's going to be an opt-out after year 2. I've got it out there on Twitter. I said, this is what it's going to be. People saying, oh no, he's not going to get 30 million. Yes, he was going to get 30 million the whole time because Dylan Cease got 30 million for 7. So for 3 years, it makes sense to get more AAV. And who's the better pitcher, Dylan Cease or Framber Valdez? It's no contest. So this to me is something that the San Francisco Giants totally blew. They just had, they went out and spent $12 million on Luis Ariz. Okay. What was the deal? You had 3 years. You couldn't have put $4 million extra dollars. So let's say you were offering 34, 35. You couldn't have put the $4 million for 3 more years and just skipped on Luis Ariz and played Casey Schmidt. Now you don't have pitching. Pitching is what you're going to need to get into the playoffs. Yeah, Luis Ariz is going to help you, but you need pitching. You need pitching. Now, this raises the question for Detroit. Does this mean that Skubal is on the move? I see that and I was thinking that. Does this mean that the Tigers are going to go all in, or are they going to make a big deal with the LA Dodgers and maybe pick up a Roki Sasaki and how about an Emmett Sheehan? Would you do a deal like that? Would you do an Emmett Sheehan and a Roki Sasaki, two pretty good frontline pitchers for a Tarik Skubal now that you have Framber Valdez, and you save the money and you get Valdez for 3 years and you get Sheehan who could start and Sasaki who could start, and or do you just go ahead and keep Skubal and go for it? Because I think the Tigers could win it all with this type of pitching. They've added the bullpen. Look, they went out and got Kenley Jansen. They got Kyle Finnegan, and they shored up the back end of the bullpen, which was a problem for them the last couple of seasons. Now you have 2 stud lefties, and, how about if you make it all the way to the World Series and you're facing the Dodgers and you got Skubal and Valdez to go after Freeman and Ohtani and Muncy and Tucker. How would you like that? Let's see. Matthew says, Dan, weren't you the one that said Valdez would sign for? I said he would sign for 3, 105 or 110 is what I predicted, with an opt-out after the second year. And he did exactly that. He got 115. And the Giants, to me, they missed out. The Giants need pitching. You're not going to get to the dance without frontline pitching. And if you think Luis Ariz is more important than Framber Valdez, then I've got a nice oceanfront property that I will sell you right here in the desert in Arizona. Come on in and buy this property because you need pitching. Pitching. And the Giants don't have it. And Luis Ariz is going to give them a game, maybe 2 at the most, as far as win column. He had just over a 1.2 WAR last year. So I don't know what the Giants are thinking. How you don't get a Framber Valdez to come pitch in your park that's a stellar pitcher park. Hey, maybe Framber Valdez said, hey, I throw a lot of ground balls. I don't want that ball's going into the hole at second base with Luis Ariz. I think I'll go find another team. I don't know. I'm just saying, guys, this really irritates me as a Giants fan because the deal was right there. Giolito, that's the guy, senior, that I've talked about that might sign with the Giants. Why? Because there's no qualifying offer. I don't think Buster wants to give up any more draft picks. If you look at what Buster's done this offseason, no draft picks, no loss of international money. Giolito does not have a qualifying offer. Neither does Max Scherzer. I could see them signing Giolito. I could see them possibly signing a Max Scherzer down the road and let them just say, hey, Max, just get ready for June. So, yeah, George, clown ownership. look, you go all this way and you build yourself up to, 22 million under the CBT, and your $12 million to Arise now looks like wasted money, in the sense that it was always, if you're going to get Luis Arise, then you've got to be adding pitching to finish the deal, because Arise helps you. It helps this lineup. It's something the Giants lack, which is the type of hitter that can move the line, right? It could just move the line. That's what the one thing the Giants don't have, is anybody to move the line. They've got the boppers that can hit the 2-3 run homers, but they don't have the guys that can just come up and keep the line moving. And if I see a lineup one more time with Matt Chapman and Willie Adames back-to-back in the 3-4, I'm going to lose it, because that is where rallies go to die. I mean, 2 chase artists, 2 strikeout kings. Please don't put those guys in the order. Separate them by a couple of guys, please. This is a move. All right, I'm back. I don't know what's happened. I guess I lost myself here for a second. Let me make sure my internet is not too going. Can you guys hear me okay and see me good? Everything clear? Let me know in the chat, because I felt like I lost signal for a moment. Let me know. Anybody in the chat, just give me a thumbs up. You can hear me loud. Okay, thanks, Brendan AZ. All right, thanks, David. Where was I on this thing? I think the Tigers vault right up to the top. That places them over Cleveland and Kansas City. I think the American League Central is Detroit's to lose. Let me just make sure. I'm going to pause for a sec, because I make sure that I don't have too much internet going on this time. This is on earlier than I usually am on. So wait just 1 minute. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I think this move is really a great move for Detroit. George says, we all know the Giants were never going to spend. They are a clown ownership group. It's an embarrassment. They are $22.35 million under the collective bargaining tax, the CBT, competitive balance tax. Look, guys, they needed to go out and sign a Framber Valdez. They dicked around all winter long. The price came down into their territory. They couldn't go 3 years, 120. Come on. Opt out after year 2. Perfect deal. And if there's no baseball in 27, you're not paying that money out. You don't pay when there's a lockout. Brendan says, am I the only Tigers fan that doesn't like this move? Interesting. Yeah, that's true. You teamed up with Webb or Skubal. Look, he picked a good opportunity. I think the Giants, hey, Scott Harris beats the Giants again. Lowe says, love it, rocking the Tigers hat. Giants don't deserve us wearing their gear now. Come on, Giants. What are you doing? Why go out and sign Harrison Bader? Why go out and sign Luis Arise? Why go out and sign these guys if you're not going to support them with pitching? You're going to try and do it with patchwork with Landon Roop as your 3 or 4 or 5, and the other Adrian Hauser and Tyler Mahle. Okay. Your only proven commodity right now is Logan Webb. Robbie Ray's semi-proven, but there's a possibility that we don't know what to expect from Ray. He broke down last year. He should be fine because he's built back up. Yeah, George, excellent point. Framber picked a great division. I mean, you're facing the Guardians, the White Sox, and the Twins. I mean, the Twins are weak as well. What's going on in Minnesota? Detroit had that division locked up last year, and they choked it away, right, to Cleveland. They just choked it away. They had like a 13-game lead with 30-something games to go. So, yeah. And Matthew, you're right. The Giants have enough money to blow past the first level of the luxury tax and should operate the second or third level every year. They'd rather spend money on buying theaters, I guess. Yeah, it just – look, when you're getting into that 3-year territory, what's the big deal? What is the big deal? Even if you went – look, what if you went $42 million a year because you're talking 126. He got what did he get? 115? Yeah. You didn't even have to go to 42. You could have went to 40. He got 115, which is like 37 something, I believe. 38.3. So you could have went to 39, 40. You could have went to 40, giving him 120. And, the Giants just look, if the Giants were in on this at all, and they were in on it at one, let's say they were where I originally projected between 105 and 110. Let's say that's where the Giants were talking. And we knew the opt-outs are after the second year, Mark, just exactly what I said they would do. If the Giants were somewhat in on this and the asking price was 105, you're going to squabble over $3 to $5 million a year. This is where the Giants have to start realizing, look, if you want to win the battle, you're going to have to go a little higher. Why? Because you got a few strikes against you. You have the California tax. You have, the ballpark's fine for pitching. It's great. You had Dusty Baker here with the San Francisco Giants. I'm sure Dusty Baker was pushing for Framber Valdez. I'm almost certain that Dusty Baker was saying Framber is a great competitor. You're not going to have any problems with him. You can count on him. Look, I mean, Framber Valdez is like close to a 200-inning guy. This is what you need. You got just a crap bullpen. You don't want that bullpen used. You don't want that bullpen used when you've got guys like Webb, and if you had Valdez, you really you take the pressure off the bullpen, because Framber Valdez last year, he pitched 192 innings. Logan Webb was like 207 or something like that. In fact, Framber Valdez came up in 2018. I think didn't Webb come up in 2019? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Webb came up in 19. So they're very similar type pitchers. And I just don't understand the mindset of the Giants. I really don't. Come on, put the extra money out. But this is a great move for Detroit. It really is. It just shows that Detroit realizes that in sports, you have a limited window, right? Your window of opportunity to strike is, you have certain windows. And right now, the Giants have an open window, if you want to call it that, with Chapman and Adames and Devers. I don't think it's that great of a window personally. I think it's a low 80s win team. So I don't think, but if you added a Framber Valdez, now you give yourself a chance. You give yourself a chance. I mean, the Giants are like the boxer that says, you know what? We're going to fight the heavyweight champ. We've got to battle with him, but we're just not going to really train that hard because they're probably going to beat the crap out of us. But we'll go out there and give it a shot and look like we're fighting, throwing, give me a left hook, give me, the Giants are the franchise that is, they're not Rocky Balboa that says we're the underdog and we'll take on Apollo Creed and we will defeat Creed. The Giants aren't anywhere in that ballpark. They're in the ballpark of Jake Paul. You know what? Let's just go out there and we'll put on an exhibition. We're not really out there, really giving real blows. And, this is just a stage. I mean, the Giants really should just look to maybe being joining the WWE, right? So I just it's disgusting to me. But Framber Valdez last year, 3.66 ERA, has an ERA in his career of 3.36. He's got, his last 4 years, 201.1 innings, 198, 176 in a third, and 192. I mean, that's right up there, Logan Webb territory. Yeah, Jake Paul got his jaw broken because I think the guy that smacked him probably wasn't going for the script. Wasn't going for the contract, Jim, was 3 years, $115 million with an opt-out after year 2, 38.3 million AAV. So after the second season, it's exactly what I said that the Giants needed to do, is go offer a 3-year, 105 to 110 contract. That's where I predicted he would sign. And I said, he's going to get a opt-out after year 2. It's not going to be after year 1. It was after year 2. And what I'm saying is, I think the Giants were in talks, and the talks were in the range of 105, 110. They steeped up, and the Giants said, no, this is our stop point. And this is why I don't understand. If you're willing to go to 105, let's say the Giants win 105, why wouldn't you go to 110? You're talking $5 million over 3 seasons. That's nothing. You're paying some scrubs a few $1 million. Okay. You're paying. This is where this is why I'm bothered, is because, thanks, Jim, for the $2. This is why I'm bothered for the Giants, because they went out and signed Arise. They needed the pitching first. Okay. They should have put the money into the pitching. They were so desperate to get a second baseman that they were willing to go, to the dollar store, so to speak, when it comes to quality of a defensive second baseman. Yes, Arise, I get it. He's going to help them at the plate. I'm all for Luis Arise at the plate. Okay, don't take me wrong. I think he helps them at the plate. But at the end of the day, Luis Arise is a one-dimensional player. That's why his WAR, that's why his OWBA, all of those are below, kind of average. His WAR was just over 1. So you've got to build with pitching. It's like football, guys. Where do you build to win championships? You build in the trenches. You build in the trenches. Offensive line, defensive line. Those are the teams that are going to win the championship. Who were the Patriots' first-round draft pick last year? Will Campbell. Oh, yeah, just a great tackle. Who does Seattle have on their offensive line? They built up their offensive line. Look at their defensive line. Look at the defensive line of the Patriots. And you look at the best teams. You look at the Houston Texans. They got Will Anderson. And you look at Kansas City in the past. It's Chris Jones and it's other guys. You build in the trenches. And what does Buster do? He goes and picks out a second baseman that's not that good. And you got a third baseman that's not that good offensively. You got a really good first baseman, in my opinion, in Rafi Devers. I think he's going to be just fine. The guy's a legitimate hitter. You got a shortstop that's good, but he's not elite. And then your outfield is just meh. Okay. What do the Giants have to do to compete? Pitching. This is what really pisses me off, is because you need pitching. That was all there for the taking. If you're going to go for it, just go for it. Otherwise, you're building a team that is an 80 to 83, 84 win team that's going to fall short again. Okay? You're not going after elite pitching. That's what gets you into the dance. Okay? How do you think the Giants won 3 world championships? Because they had Lincecum, Kane, Mad Bum, and they had Peavy, and then they had Sanchez in there for a little bit in 2010, and I'm missing another name, just drawing a blank, but this is what they have to do. Jim, Dan, I will laugh if Ron Washington works with him and he gives Gold Glove caliber defense play, hits 350 with 85 to 90 RBIs. Jim, if that happens, that would be wild. I had Kane in there, Mark. Vogelsong, that's who I was thinking. Thank you, Vogelsong. Giants had the pitching. Tim Hudson, yeah, there's another one. But they filled in, but the stars were, Kane and obviously Timmy and Mad Bum. Those were the big 3, Timmy, Mad Bum, and Kane in that order, those 3. In 2014, it was Mad Bum, right? All the way. But you got to have somebody that can, just take the bull by the horns. I don't get this whole thing. You let the Detroit Tigers outbid you. You let the Detroit Tigers outbid you. Let me pull up Cots. Hold on here 1 second. I hit the wrong button. I'm going to pull up Cots' salary and take a look at the Giants. Now, I apologize. I won't be able to blow this up because it's in Excel that they put it in. And Giants are at 228. Unfortunately, guys, it's not going to be very large. It's one of the screens I cannot completely expand here. I try, but okay. You see let's just look at the salaries here. 25 for Chapman, 25 for Ray, 20. Well, if we look at the CBT, let's just look at it that way, because Devers is only getting 23.8 this year on the regular, but on the 40, it's 27.4. It's balanced out. Jung-Hoo Lee, 18.8, 18 for Webb, 26 for Adames, 12 for Arise, 10.25 for Harrison Bader, just under 10 million for Tyler Mahle, and 11 million for Hauser. Then you got 2 million for Foley, Brubaker 1.8, and 1.4 for Sam Henches. So those are your guys. The rest of the guys are all under arbitration. They're not eligible, so they have minimum salary 700,000 to 800,000. Guys like Bailey, Walker, Ramos, Beck, Schmidt, Miller, Buto, Matos. The list goes on and on and on. But look, guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 guys eat up the majority of the money, and then you got the guys that you signed like Arise, Bader, and Molly and Hauser. Those are all $10 to $12 million contracts. Not that big of a deal, but it appears, this is what's going on. Buster's not doing the qualifying offer. This is the plan. He's not giving up, which, look, in some ways, I get it. In some ways, I get it because you don't want to, I don't think the Giants are in their window right now. Okay, this is what bothers me about the Giants is I don't think they're completely in their window to win. I think their window to really become a competitive team is at the end of the decade. But at the meantime, you got Chapman, Adames, Devers, Webb, and you signed Bader, Molly, and Hauser. What are you doing if you're not going to try to win? You can do both. You could have gone without giving up your prospects, so you give up some international money and you give up a draft pick for Framber Valdez. You could do that and try to win. And then if you don't win with this club, this is what I would do if, and who am I, right? Who am I? But this is what I would do. And I look, there's a lot of content creators that think a whole lot different, and that's fine. That's what we do, right? Everybody has their own thoughts and judgment. I think mine makes sense because, I don't know. I've been following this team since 1968, longer than anybody that's in the Bay Area, in the media. There's no one been following the Giants that are in the media that's since 1968. And I've been right about this team more often than not. And if what I would have done, I would have went out and signed Framber Valdez. And I said, okay, I'm going to go for it right now. Because but I'm not giving up my guys. I'm not giving up Joe Shar. I'm not giving up Hernandez. I'm not giving up Eldridge. I'm not giving up Johnny Level right now, unless I get a great deal. I'm not giving up, some other top prospects that are growing. The Giants came out today, Baseball America. They're ranked 14th. I think next year they move into the top 10 pretty easily with the 4th pick overall. And then you add Hernandez coming in, and I think this Giants team is on the rise. So I would not be trading off all these guys because I don't think the Giants have the total horses to do it. They're close if you added a Valdez, but let's look at it this way, guys. And this is the way I would do it. 3 years is nothing. It's easy to spin off of contracts, especially a guy like Valdez. And I would have said, I'm going to try and go for it this year. I've got momentum. I've got a new manager. I've added, a hitting piece that they haven't had in a 300 hitter in Arise that helps the offense. You've got Devers for a full season. You've got a healthy Chapman. You've got Willie Adames, who's 1 year removed from being the new guy with the highest contract. Now he's more acclimated. And you've got Harrison Bader coming off a big year. And I would have went with Valdez. And then I would have said, you know what? If we're not in it and we don't do well, or let's say we are and we don't make trades because we're in it and we think we can get to the playoffs and you fall short of the playoffs, you got guys you can trade. You can say, you know what? We gave it our best shot with the window of Matt Chapman, Rafi Devers, Willie Adames. We're not going to run it back with a 4th year of Matt Chapman. And then you could say, you know what? After the season, you could say, we gave it our shot in 2026. Now it's time to start moving off of these contracts that we're given $25 million to. And we're going to say, Matt, it's time. Where do you want to go? Because we're rebuilding. We're going to go younger. We've got Casey Schmidt still on the team. We're going to put Casey over at third. We want to put you in a good position. Where would you like to go? And Matt gives 5 teams. He says, I'll go Yankees, Dodgers. Max Muncy's not coming back next year. Muncy would be Chapman would be a fantastic Dodger in where he's from, down in Southern California, right? Grew up there. So I know it was Orange County, but still. So you move Chapman in the offseason, and you start moving guys like Logan Webb, and you probably have to pay a little bit of the salary for Matt Chapman, or the Yankees might be willing to not give you much back, or the Dodgers give you much back, but they take on the full contract. And you say, you know what? But you start getting younger, and you start getting younger guys to take over, and you start accumulating assets like the St. Louis Cardinals are doing in Chaim Bloom. If you notice what St. Louis is doing, they are doing a full rebuild. What did St. Louis do? 22 years out of 23, they made the playoffs. That is one of the top organizations in all of Major League Baseball. That is a baseball town. They know their stuff. They're great fans. 22 out of 23. I don't know if they made the playoffs. I take that back. Winning seasons, I think it was. 22 out of 23 winning seasons for the St. Louis Cardinals. Giants haven't had a winning season but once in the last 9 years. Okay? So it is time for the Giants to either crap or get off the pot. And the time was they should have went out and signed a Framber Valdez, and they should have been able to get him for 3 years, 120 with an opt-out after the second year, and they would have been fine. They could have paid $40 million. It would have pushed him over the tax by $17 million. Heck, you might have been able to move off of a Jung-Hoo Lee in a trade and then come back under the competitive balance tax if you wanted to really do that. And guys, I see stuff talking about the no trade clause. That's Senior's right. It's just an insurance policy for guys with a family. Guys want to know where they're going to go. Guys get traded all the time with no trade clauses. It just gives them control where they're going. Okay, that's all it is. You can still make a trade of a guy if you have a talk with him. Look what Nolan Arenado. He was on the block all last year. He turned down a deal to go to the Houston Astros. This year he accepted a deal to go to Arizona. Okay, why wouldn't Nolan Arenado want to move to Arizona? Look, every other baseball player in America seems to live here in Arizona. It's a wonderful place to play or live. You got year-round weather that's pretty much remarkable for 8 of the 12 months. You got 4 horrible months. But with that kind of money, those guys can just go up 2 hours north into the Flagstaff area where it's 20, 25 degrees cooler, or Prescott. They could have a beautiful, mansion cabin there for but think about it. The summer they're playing baseball, so it doesn't matter. They don't care. They're when they come home in the summer, they're air conditioned. They go play in an air conditioned Chase Field in Arizona. So people love playing in Arizona or living in Arizona. You guys be surprised how many ball players live here in Arizona. So the point is people will make trades and go anywhere they want to go. I mean, look at, Arenado chose the Diamondbacks, and so did Corbin Burns, right? Because he lives here. So he's got 2 young kids. Ideal situation. I'll just sign with the D-backs. All right. So to me, I think this move by Detroit is a move that gives them a lot of upside. I don't see any downside to it with Detroit. If Skubal walks, which if they don't trade him, he's going to walk in free agency. Now they've got Framber Valdez, and so they can go with it with a 1-2 punch. That's probably as much. I would say, what's a better 1-2 punch in baseball other than, I mean, you got to say Skubal's is either the best pitcher in baseball or the second best pitcher in baseball behind Paul Skeens, right? So you've got arguably the first or second best pitcher in all of baseball. Now, Framber Valdez, he falls into that category. He's a top 15 pitcher. Who's a better 1-2 combo in all of baseball right now? Who's got a better 1-2 than the Detroit Tigers in Skubal and Valdez? I mean, you could say the Dodgers got Snell and Yamamoto, but I don't think it's as good as Skubal and Valdez. It's close, but, you know, Snell's so up and down with his, is he pitching or is he out or what, you know, I don't know. Yeah, they could have got him for 130 as well. Absolutely. If you would have went 43 million a year. Hey, didn't Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander make 43 million a year or something like that a few years ago with the Mets? Yeah. I mean, the Giants didn't jump on this. This is what you got to do. You got to close the deal. Look, closers close, man. Closers close. Buster didn't close this deal. So right now, I don't know what the plan is. Man, guys who are hungry and they know what they want, they just go get it. And I don't understand why you had Framber Valdez at the top of the market, the best free agent pitcher available, who was asking for 6 or 7 years back in November, at the beginning of November, when free agency started after the World Series. We all remember it, right? And then who signs right out of the gate, pretty much? First big signing in free agency was Dylan Cease, 7 years, $210 million, $30 million a year. Now, all of a sudden, Valdez is like, well, shoot, if he got 30 and 7 and you know, for 7, I got to get, you know, 33 and 7 at least. And that would have put him at 231, but nobody wanted to give that. I don't think anybody wanted to give Dylan Cease 7 years and 210, but Toronto. I think Toronto was bidding against themselves. We don't know if that's true. We have no idea. There's a possibility that he turned down the Giants, but I think if the Giants really, I don't think he would have turned down the Giants if the money was right. Why would you turn down the Giants to pitch? Unless you say, hey, I don't want to face the Dodgers 3-4 times a season and pitch 4 of my starts be against the Dodgers, 3 or 4 of my starts be against the Padres. I don't know. Like somebody said earlier, he picked the wimpiest division in baseball. I mean, look over my shoulder here. Look at that. I've got the Tigers hat on, but I mean, Cleveland, Kansas City, Minnesota, and the White Sox. Cleveland doesn't hit well. Kansas City's got a couple of guys, you know, Bobby Witt Jr. and maybe 1 or 2 guys, but they don't scare anybody. The White Sox don't scare anybody. Minnesota doesn't scare anybody. Shoot, he's got 13 games against 4 teams. That's 52 games. So how many series? You play 4 series against each team. So he's got 16 series. Now it's not always going to, you know, cycle around where sometimes he's going to miss a start because it's not automatic that he's going to get a start every series that they face the Indians. I mean, whatever they're called, the Guardians or the White Sox. You know, you might miss a start because you started a day earlier. But there's a potential 16 starts right there. Half of your starts. You're playing them 4 series, 2 at home, 2 away. 4 times 4 teams. Yeah, 16 series. He could theoretically, half of his starts could be against division opponents if you set it up right. But yeah, Framber Valdez could have a monster year with that particular division. Let's see what else we got. Let's take a look at the chat here. Jim, 130 degrees, Lake Havasu. Whoa. I remember hitting 120s. 122's the highest day of record that I remember ever living in here in Arizona. But my goodness, 130. Let's see. Yeah, the only guy they signed top of the market was they did sign Bonds and they did sign Zito. Zito was kind of top of the market there as a free agent when he left the A's. So we'll see. We'll see, guys. Hey, we've been going for 46 minutes. I'm going to close this. This was just an impromptu live. Again, let me just make a banner here. If you're just joining us, Framber Valdez signs with the Detroit Tigers for 3 years, $115 million. I'll just put a note here, Detroit, Detroi, yeah, Tigers, 3 years, $115 million. Let me see if I can add that banner. There we go. So Framber Valdez signs with the Detroit Tigers, 3-1-15, opt out after year 2. So I think this pushes the Tigers up right now as the American League Central. They're the front runner for sure. I think in the American League Western Division, I think it's Seattle, what they've done here. And in the East, really, it could be anybody. It's Toronto, could be the Yankees. Who knows? Could be Baltimore if they have a bounce back year. But I think the Tigers have a very good shot now of advancing into, if they're not one of the top 2 teams, which they should be in the American League. They should be in that American League Central. The Tigers should get a bye and have a 5-game series. And think about this. In a 5-game series, the Tigers are going to be able to start in the first 2 games, Tarik Skubal and Framber Valdez. How is that? Now you have a chance to go up 2-0 in your series of best of 5. So I think when you start looking at it like that, and if you can win that division series in 3-4 games and then go into the American League Championship Series with your pitching lined up, and you got Skubal that can go game 1, and Valdez could go game 2, and Skubal could go game 4, and Valdez could go game 5, and then Skubal could go game 7 if necessary, and Valdez could come in if he has to. You know, this is why the Giants missed out. They missed a big one, in my opinion, because you could have had Webb and Valdez. And again, guys, you'll hear it from other channels who will steal this. You save your bullpen with Valdez. And what's the weak point of the San Francisco Giants? It's their bullpen. Their bullpen is the weakest part of the team. And now you get a chance for Webb to go out there and throw 7, Valdez to go out there and throw 7. Your bullpen gets, in some cases, is going to get 2 days off with maybe 1 or 2 guys have to throw an inning, and that's it. And that's why Valdez was so important, because not only was he a really good pitcher, but he eats up innings. And that's what the Giants need. They're a young pitching staff, and their bullpen is like patchwork right now. And so they're putting pieces. There's a couple of pieces in the bullpen I like that have potential to be good. I like Sam Henches. Eric Miller could have a bounce back year. There's a couple of other guys that might, show up and stand out, but you don't want to overtax that bullpen. That's what's been happening with this bullpen for the last several years. It's by the time the end of the season rolls around, they're beat up. And what are the Dodgers doing? They're throwing 6, 7, 8 different starters, and their max guy is throwing how many innings? 150? How many innings did Yamamoto pitch last year? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I'm going to look it up right now and tell you. Yamamoto pitched 173 innings last year. That was the workhorse of the staff, okay? But if you look at, what did Blake Snell pitch? Did he even pitch 80 innings last year? Blake Snell threw 61 innings last year, okay? How about Tyler Glasnow? How many innings did Glasnow throw last year? He threw 90 innings. Who else was on that staff that was through? Emmett Sheehan? Emmett Sheehan probably threw, I bet he didn't throw, he had to be under 100 innings. 73 innings. Okay. Who's another starter that was on that club for the Dodgers? Clayton Kershaw. What did Kershaw throw? 85 innings last year. Let's see what Kershaw threw. He threw 112. See, none of these guys were taxed. So this is, but the Dodgers don't care, Mark. 61 innings, stealing money. That's part of their plan. That's part of their repertoire, is they just hit these guys. Hey, go out and just stay strong, stay loose, and we'll have you go full throttle when we get to September. September will be, from mid-August through the end of September will be your spring training. You'll be, by the last 2 starts of September, you'll be fully ramped up, and you'll be, playoff time, you'll be as fresh as, I don't know, fresh as apple pie. How's that? I don't know. But it looks like the Giants have decided they're going to go with their young pitching. Mark my words, guys. This will be the downfall of the San Francisco Giants in 2026. They will fall short because they didn't have the pitching to get them through. Their starting pitching will unravel, and they will have some injuries at some point, May, June, July, to some of their starters. They will rely on some of the youngsters. They will fall short, and they're going to end up missing the playoffs by a couple of games, and they're going to go, man, if we had Framber Valdez, he could have given us 4 or 5 extra wins, and the difference of making the playoffs and not. That's what I think will happen. Guys, appreciate you watching. Make sure you do hit that like button on this channel. It really helps push out the algorithm. I believe, guys, we're only a couple of let me look. Let me see where we're at when it comes to our analytics. We're at 5,998 subs, guys. 2 subs away. Just 2 subs away from 6,000. So go ahead and like this channel. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and we will hit the 6,000 mark. We'll come back on tomorrow night. Not sure what we're going to do. Who'll come on? I think I'm going to have Jeff Young possibly join us next week. You guys know Jeff Young. He's writes with the Giants. And also Polly Mack and Tony from Polly Mack Particles. Remember Murph and Mack? That's Polly Mack. Tony was a producer over at KMBR. They'll both be on Monday night after the Super Bowl at 8 p.m. So we'll have Tony and Polly Mack on here, which will be a lot of fun. And we'll be back on tomorrow night at some point, probably about 8 o'clock. Maybe I'll reach out to Casey and see if he's available for tomorrow. I'm not sure if he will be on short notice, but I want to get Casey back on and talk with him, see how he's feeling about things. And so we'll see if we can figure that out. But guys, appreciate you taking the time to watch. Again, the news of the night that caused us to go live was Framber Valdez going to the Detroit Tigers, 3 years, $115 million, something the Giants could have easily afforded and could have gone higher, but they chose not to, and it will be to their detriment. And the Giants are, in my opinion, right now, just kind of spinning some wheels because they're really not going for it, and they're really not rebuilding. They're doing that thing again, guys. What do we talk about here on NorCal Sports Network? What's the big thing we say? We say, pick a lane and go for it. And what are the Giants doing? Looks like they're going to be riding right down that middle lane again. Going to have a decent lineup, but their pitching's going to be suspect, and they'll probably finish right around that 500 mark. Jim, final comment says, I'm afraid Buster might end up looking like Farhan's better-looking brother. I think they should put Birdsong in the pen full-time early in the season. He was in the pen and was lights out. Yeah, we'll see what they do. It's going to be an interesting spring pitching, catching report in 6 days. I'll try and get down there and give you some hands-on, put some eyes on these players and see what's going on. But again, let me find my music and we'll get out of here. And that we'll call it a night. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching this show. Appreciate it. And we will catch you live tomorrow night. Take care, everybody.